Hi, welcome to the Healing You Show. I'm Gloria Lightbecker. Today I was reflecting on what is the lesson that life has taught me today. And being in a relationship with family and friends and clients, the most consistent life lesson that I'm learning today is the importance of clear, solid, and consistent communication. And when you don't have that, boy, it can be painful. And so what does that look like? Well, it's a rupture. When there's a rupture in a relationship, it can create pain. It can create distortions in how we hear each other or see each other. We may feel rejected, hurt, alone. Oh, and that can really pack a wallop. Maybe the rupture is something that you stimulated. And maybe it feels like you let them down, or that you're not enough. Or so you're not blank enough. Fill in the blank. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not quick enough. Or I'm too quick. I'm too sensitive. I talk too much. What is the flavor of that pain for you in your relationships when there's a rupture? It can really kind of knock you out. It can narrow your vision, give you a pain in the gut, pain in the neck. Maybe it's a low backache. But your body stores all of those sensations unless you're able to slow it down and really begin to notice your experience in the moment. And those ripples, if they're not addressed with clear and consistent communication, it can ripple out, and then it can begin to affect others in your world. It can ripple through a family. It can ripple through a group so fast. And so being able to catch it right at the beginning can be really helpful. So what might that look like? Well, I can use an example. I got a schedule going. It can get kind of packed in there sometimes, and I really like to be flexible, and I like to be able to be spontaneous as well. That when something arises in the moment, that I can meet it right where it's at. And then I really appreciate it so much when there's flexibility and for spontaneous changes in my own world. Well, the other day, I realized that one of the appointments that I'd scheduled was not showing up on my calendar the way that it needed to. And sometimes technology is a bit of a stretch, and switching into a new calendar system has its potential areas for making mistakes, new opportunities to learn. However, it was really going to affect a group that I was working with. So I decided I would write to everybody, and I was going to try doing a text, thinking it'd be quicker and easier. And however, when I send a text and it's later in the day, and it feels a little bit, maybe even in the background of my experience, that I'm experiencing a sense of a time pressure, and I'm not really paying attention to that. And so when it affects the words that I choose, with the kind of the rhythm of the language that I'm using. And it may seem much more abrupt. It may seem very crisp and clear, and it may not land the way that would feel welcome for the group. And each person has their own experience with how language affects the nervous system. And yet, I really noticed as I started to get responses from people in the group, some were totally okay with saying, oh yeah, no worries, we're happy to change my schedule. Others were like, I definitely can't do this day, but I could do that other day. And then some were just knocked more off balance because the pattern or the schedule was really working for them. And getting a last minute change was a little bit more at the end of the day than they were able to take in with ease. So I followed up, made an agreement to follow up with it the next morning. And in having that conversation with this other person that really does matter to me, I could hear and really sense how that consistency and that trust, in order to have trust, the consistency really needs to be there. And so as I listened with my heart to this other one, I could really notice how the tone of the voice, the cadence, even the rhythm and the modulation, the times I take pauses, and to frame up my language in such a way that the other person really gets that their experience really does matter to me. So making sure I'm using I and you language. So I'm noticing my schedule. I've dropped the timing and I need to reschedule this for a different day and time. And I'm wondering how that is for you. Checking in, how is this for this other person to receive? Rather than saying, oh, my schedule got mixed up and I double booked and I need to reschedule it to this date. Will that work for you? That has a completely different feel. Could you hear the difference? Well, being able to really look through the eyes of my client and hear with their ears, I felt a little sadness. I noticed that I could easily fall into one of my own patterns of, oh, I don't get it right. There's something wrong with me for having done it that way. That wasn't very professional, or whatever the storyboard might have been. And so I'm celebrating that life has taught me to slow down and listen from my heart. That the experience this other person needs me to hear is their experience. And I may have stimulated it by my expression. It doesn't make my expression wrong. It's that when I listen with my heart, I can be moved. And then I'm willing to express differently in order to contribute to a sense of ease in another person's life. Well, I tell you, I really like it when others hold that space for me and hold me with that much care. And then what does it look like when those ripples go out into the world? When you're held with so much care and consideration consistently, where you're checked in with about how it is for you to experience whatever it may be, then you have that much more full in your own heart, that then you can go out in your world and you can pay it forward with your children, with your spouse, with your friends, with your coworkers, the people at the grocery store, the gas station. Just take a moment and just even think about what that would be like. I like that. Yeah. So being able to shift our mindset from, oh, I'm so hurt, I can't believe that person did that. Oh, I'm a failure, or I'm a jerk. I don't matter, or you don't matter. It's like the enemy image comes up, and I'm either going to blame you, or I'm going to blame myself, or I might inadvertently imply wrongness about you, or imply wrongness about me, depending on how my perception is in the moment. When I can catch that perception, and I can begin to observe it, I can slow it down. And instead, what I might have is the conversation of, oh, they're feeling hurt. I'm wondering what they're needing. Or, oh, I dropped the ball on that. And, wow, that doesn't meet my need for consideration. How is that for you to experience? Is there anything you'd like me to hear? And then really taking the time to listen from your heart space. It makes a big difference. Well, in order to do this, you're going to need to have certain skill sets. And the first skill set, you probably have heard where they talk about if you're on an airplane, if it starts to go down and the oxygen masks drop down, you need to put on your own oxygen mask first in order to be able to stay present, to support others to put theirs on. Well, the same is true for empathy. How do you stay engaged in a conversation? You need to be self-connected with your own heart first. Slowing that down, to be honest, many times is helpful to be really transparent. So I'll just say it out loud, like, oh my goodness, I just realized that I totally dropped the ball on this, and I feel sadness, and there's a clenching in my gut. Oh, because you really matter to me, and I'm wondering how it is for you right now. And then listening and reflecting back what I hear. There can be times when there's a rupture that it feels like it's so big that you just need to take time. And that's okay too. It's really important to take time when you need time to be able to be really self-connected and grounded in what you really value, so that you are not acting out in your anger. Anger can have a really excellent fuel that it can provide you. And in my experience, it will provide it as a fuel when you're grounded in your values. Not if you're flipping your lid and just really ticked off. So the skill sets are being able to slow down and really listen from your heart. And then the other skill set that you need is to be able to know how to stay in the conversation rather than getting triggered by it or taking things really personally. Because in the personal relationship, it can be challenging to keep your perception open-hearted. And so when you practice those basics of self-connecting, noticing when you feel hurt or rejected, dismissed, taking time to even journal about that can really help. And then notice, how does that feel in your body? And name the sensations. Link those sensations to the emotional flavor that's arising in the moment. And rest with that in your body. Acknowledging where that is. Oh, and then slowing it down even more to follow that path, the emotion, to the beauty of the need that's underlying it. What do you value? What is it that is alive for you? And really sit with that and how much it means to you. And then from that place, in my experience, your heart can open up. And you get curious about what the other person's experience is like. And so you can check in with them. And then you can own it. You can make an observation. Hey, when I got my calendar confused and I sent you that text letting you know that I needed to reschedule, my text, the way I wrote to you, it really didn't meet my need for consideration and care. And I want to check in. how is it for you to receive that? Is there anything you'd like me to hear? And then listen from your heart. Reflect back what you hear. And then before moving to express your own, say, is there anything more you'd like me to hear? Really create the space where it's safe for others' experience to be felt, for them to experience how much they really do matter. And notice what that's like for you. So how about that? You want to practice that this week? Really noticing what it's like for you when you feel hurt, rejected, dismissed, and write it down. Notice, is there a pattern for you? Notice what it's like. What need is it that keeps coming up? Start practicing, noticing what it's like to check in with other people, especially after you've had a rupture. And notice what it's like to listen from your heart space, to really make those heart connections until both of you feel really felt and really heard, and you both know you really matter. Then you will have healed the rupture, which makes your relationship more secure. And it builds that solid foundation of trust that you can really count on. And that, my friend, will really encourage your relationships to be enduring. And that's a beautiful thing. So may you have a beautiful rest of the day, and may your relationships be warm ones that really are clear containers that you know you matter. Thanks for being on this journey with me.